today. So do pop any questions or comments in along the way and we'll come back to them at the end. We will be recording today's webinars for the schools who are unable to join us live today. So clothes swapping is one of the most impactful actions that we can take. Just last week, the EU Parliament reached a provisional agreement on new measures to reduce textile waste across the EU. And according to this deal, EU countries have to establish producer responsibility schemes, so EPRs, through which fast fashion brands now will have to take responsibility for the entire life cycle of their products, in particular the end, covering costs of collection, sorting and recycling with fees based on garment sustainability. It's great progress as these changes in the market means that the majority of our textiles can no longer be exported, but with that brings huge challenges as we don't have the infrastructure for sorting and collecting yet, and charity shops fear that they're going to be used as a dumping ground for textiles. So by encouraging more clothes swaps and sharing platforms, we will play a fundamental role in managing our textile waste. And we have three fantastic guest speakers who will be sharing their clothes swapping ideas with us today. I'd like to welcome our student ambassador, Lillian Gleaves, who you would have met at our launch event. Very welcome back. We have Rachel Smyth, climate ambassador, and Mary Fleming from Change Clothes, a community-based tree hub, which we'll talk a little bit more about later on. But we've a lot to get through today, so I'm going to stop talking and hand you over to Lillian. Lillian has been ambassador with us since 2023, and her passion and dedication is truly inspiring. She has lots of clothes sharing tips to share with you from her time in Kinsale Community School and currently in UCC as well. So over to you, Lillian.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Lillian Gleaves, and I'm delighted to be here today to talk to you about how we do swap shops at my university, University College Park. As ambassador for the Let's Fashion program, vice campaigns officer for UCC Green Campus, and a passionate advocate for climate and youth activism, I strongly believe in the power of education and collective action to create a more sustainable world. One key aspect of this mission is reducing waste and embracing the circular economy, and that's exactly what swap shops help us to achieve. I usually see several successful swap shop initiatives have encouraged sustainable fashion, responsible consumption, and a strong sense of community. There are many ways to swap, and I hope to give you some ideas today. We go on to the next slide, please. Okay, so the UCC Fashion Society ran a fantastic workshop as part of RAG Week, which stands for Raise and Give Week, a time where students come together to support charities through various activities. Held on the 18th of February in the Hub, Thrift for Rag Week encouraged students to donate unwanted clothes, skirts, sweaters, pants, skirts, and accessories to support circular fashion. All proceeds from the sales of these designs by charities, including the Dilling Park Foundation, Concern Worldwide, and Autism Assistance Dogs Ireland. This initiative not only helped students refresh their wardrobe sustainably, but also contributed to meaningful causes. It was a win-win, a decluttered closet, a new outfit, and the satisfaction of knowing that your old clothes were given a second life while supporting charity. Events like these remind us that fashion doesn't have to be wasteful. It can be a force for good. Next slide, please. Then the Surgeon Noonan Bring a Dress, Buy a Dress initiative was another sustainable fashion event. And it was hosted by Surgeon Noonan and the UCC Fashion Society in October, just before ball season. So students were encouraged to donate dresses they no longer needed, making them available for purchase by others. And as an incentive, those who donated received a 10-euro voucher, while buyers were able to pick up stylish and affordable outfits for the upcoming balls. This initiative ensured that beautiful dresses weren't left unworn in wardrobes. After all, it's the duration of use rather than the total lifespan of a garment that makes the greatest impact in offsetting the need for new clothing purchases. By extending the life of clothing, students actively reduced waste and embraced a more sustainable way to enjoy fashion. Next slide, please. Okay, so during Climate Action Week, UCC launched the Clothes Swap Rail. It was a really simple yet impactful initiative for promoting sustainable fashion. The ongoing swap shop allowed students to refresh their wardrobes without contributing to the negative effects of fast fashion. Participants exchanged pre-loved clothes by taking an item through the rail and replacing it with one of their own, ensuring a continuous cycle of reuse. And this initiative was made possible through the generous support of Cork Clothes Swaps, who provided the rail and initial clothing items. So by embracing clothes swaps for its commitment to sustainability, helping us reduce textile waste while encouraging conscious consumer habits. Next slide, please. Okay, so unlike the previous three short-term events, the UCC International Office Swap Shop is an ongoing initiative that's been making a difference for years. The Swap Shop allows students and staff, particularly international students returning home, to donate items they no longer need, such as winter coats, pots, pans, cutlery, plates, mugs, spraying gear, bedding, stationery, and loads more. These items are made available for free to incoming students who often arrive with minimal belongings and need essential household items without spending a fortune. So, launched in 2018 as part of the UCC sustainability mission, the initiative prevents thousands of perfectly good items from ending up in landfills every year. These resources are then redistributed, reducing waste while helping others settle into life in Cork. A 3-year entry fee is charged to access the swap shop, and all of those proceeds go to Cork Dog, a local dog shelter. And the response has really been overwhelming. Students have saved money, reduced waste, and contributed to a more sustainable campus. And the initiative even gained some international recognition when the co-founder, Natalie O'Byrne, presented the project at an Erasmus training week in Turkey, inspiring other universities to follow similar models. Next slide, please. So each of these swap shops embodies the principles of circular economy, minimizing waste, maximizing resource use, and fostering a culture of sharing and reusing. In a time where the cost of living crisis is affecting students more than ever, initiatives like these not only promote sustainability, but provide meaningful financial relief. The success of these swap shops proves that small actions can lead to big changes. Whether it's donating an old dress, picking up a secondhand sweater, or finding essential homeware for free, every contribution creates a more environmentally conscious, socially responsible campus. If you haven't taken part in a swap shop yet, now is the perfect time to start. Donate your pre-loved items, support sustainable fashion, and consider setting up a swap shop in your school or community. You don't need to be an expert. I'm a medical student, not an environmental scientist, but all that matters is that you care and you do your best, because together we can make a difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lillian. Fantastic initiatives there around clothes swapping. We'll take some questions at the end there. I suppose if you had any kind of tips that you wish you knew, maybe going back when you were organising clothes swaps that you'd like to share, with any of the students here, just as I get the next presentation ready, that would be great. And for everyone listening today, if you could pop into the chat, if you have ran a swap shop in your school yet, no problem if you haven't, because that's going to be your next task. And we've put together a resource to help you run your own swap shops in your school. But we'd love to hear about any swap shops that have taken place already.
Yeah, one for schools who haven't done a swap shop yet is make sure you know what you're going to do with all of the leftover clothes, because unfortunately not all of it will be taken, and you need to have a plan in place, because otherwise you will have a lot of bin bags of clothes left in your classrooms, which isn't ideal. So just make sure you're going into it with a well-structured plan, and it'll make everything fly so much more smoothly.
Thank you, Lillian. I am just going to share. Great. So next up is Rachel Smyth, who has trained as a climate ambassador with An Taisce last year, and she won an Outstanding Achievement Award for the actions and communications she took focusing on sustainable fashion. She designed an interactive map of organisations supporting sustainable and circular fashion in Dublin. She's a recent graduate, now working in energy policy, but she's been interested in sustainable fashion since secondary school and is passionate about sewing, upcycling and swapping her wardrobe. So over to you, Rachel.
Thanks very much, Claire. And it's great to hear about all the initiatives happening in UCC as well. I graduated college last year, so I was kind of involved in some of the initiatives in Trinity in Dublin as well. So it's great to hear other colleges are doing similar, and honestly, it sounds like doing more than we were. So yeah, thanks for having me on to talk about a little bit what I've been up to. So as you mentioned, I was a climate ambassador with An Taisce last year. So if people aren't aware of what that is, it's basically a program that trains people up on taking climate action and really promoting climate action to others so that they can take that action with you. And as a part of the program, you're trained up at the start of the year, and then you have to complete at least 2 actions and 2 communications for the climate. throughout that year. So lots of mine were kind of based on clothes swapping, clothes mending, because they were kind of topics I was already interested in. So it was a great opportunity to get involved in that. So it was probably when I was in my mid to like late part of secondary school when I started really thinking about the sustainability of my clothing, and kind of watching documentaries, reading bits about the fashion industry and fast fashion. So I was focusing kind of more on being more conscious about what I was purchasing and, using the circular economy as well for fashion. So I've been kind of sewing since the age of 12 or 13. I got my first sewing machine, and it took a lot of years before I was properly able to make anything that I would actually be proud to wear out and about. But it was a really great skill to learn at that early age, because then you can kind of mend your clothes and you're really contributing not just to swapping with other people, but also if you are swapping, to being able to mend your own clothing, so that it stays in the system a little bit longer. So one of the first, if you can go to the next slide there, if you don't mind. So sorry, there's just some examples of things I kind of upcycled over the years with some recycled fabrics. And it's a great way to kind of get in touch with your own style, I found, and not just be kind of focused on the trend cycles and things that are being advertised to us on social media. So yeah, next slide there again, please. Thank you. So one of the first kind of actions that we did, I helped to organize at the start of last year for Climate Ambassador, was through my college. So we did some sewing workshops where I taught people the basics of machine sewing. So we did things for alterations, upcycling, and then some basic sewing skills as well for mending. And then during Green Week, what we did was we hosted a special workshop for learning how to sew reusable menstrual pads. So participants could come in and learn how to sew one for themselves and take it home. So we were using kind of upcycled materials again, but it also had the added benefit of reducing plastic then in your sanitary products. So they're really popular sewing workshops, and you really got lots of people that wouldn't really have had an interest before in being able to sew or mend come along. And we also kind of used some clothes that we got from other swap shops that were left over. So that's, I suppose, one use you could use for clothes that are left over. Maybe try use them for an upcycling project, or you could host another event off the back of a swap shop you might have already organized. So next slide, please. So as Claire mentioned, I also, one of my actions or communications, I should say, that I organized for last year was to make a sustainable fashion map of Dublin. So one thing I find with fast fashion is all these companies have very big advertising budgets. They market their clothes very heavily. So when you're walking around, when you're on social media, it might seem that that's the only option available to you. So I really wanted to highlight some of the more circular initiatives taking place within the full county of Dublin, so that people kind of see that there are options available to them, and it's not just what's most convenient to hand. So I kind of mapped places within Dublin using Google My Maps. It's very simple if you want to do one yourself for your own area. You're basically just adding locations to the map. So I put in places that are for reuse in blue there. So that could be swap shops, it could be thrift shops, charity shops. You can see I've changed clothes there that Mary organizes there. So we have her in that section. Then we have places for repair. So there might be alteration centers and shops, which people don't really use as much anymore as they used to. Places for learning about sustainable fashion, about how to mend and sew your own clothing. And finally, in purple there, we have places that sell sewing and craft supplies, so you can kind of get started on that journey of mending your own clothes. So yeah, I'd really encourage anyone that is interested in doing a map like this for the local area. It'd be really cool. Claire was telling me that there's some students in Cork City that did it for Cork as well. So it'd be great to kind of eventually have a full map of all of Ireland and to see the wealth of initiatives across the whole country. So next slide, please, if you don't mind. So then coming up towards the end of last year, we did two kind of big events during Climate Action Week in collaboration with one of the organisers of the Climate Ambassador programme. So on the Saturday, we hosted a thrift shop treasure hunt. So this was where we kind of used my map to create a little map of shops in central Dublin that we could take participants along and just show them a few of the charity shops available. And that was a really good day. We had some great climate conversations afterwards and chats about sustainable fashion, about swapping clothes, and about charity shopping. And then on the Sunday, you can see there the picture on the right, we had a big swap shop party was what the name of the campaign was. So people were encouraged to host these all across Ireland, and we did a particularly big one in Dublin, where people could bring, it was a big swap shop, so you could bring in your clothing, you got the same amount back as you brought. We had some snacks on the side, and then I was also teaching a few mending skills on the side. So if you are organizing your own swap shop, that could be something to keep in mind to make it fun, kind of put some music on, have some food maybe beside, and you could match up two different events together like we did to have some sewing skills on the side if anyone has skills in that area. So the more fun the better, I think, for encouraging people to come and not making it all serious and just about sustainable fashion. It's about kind of finding really incredible pieces as well. So yeah, I would definitely recommend setting one up yourself if you are able to, even just with friends. It doesn't have to be something super organized. Sometimes there might be a piece of clothing you have an eye on that your friend's wearing that you might want to swap. So I would recommend that too. So next slide, please. And then finally, the last swap shop that I helped organize last year was in my local community. So after leaving college and not being a part of the environmental society there anymore, I decided to join the local kind of sustainability group in my area. So we do like a range of different events, but one of the ones we did towards the end of last year was a Halloween swap shop for mostly for children. We had a few adults costumes as well. So just like Lillian was saying, kind of about the dress, the ball gowns that they did, it's sometimes fun to have a specific theme for a swap shop. It kind of is a great thing to put on your posters, and it can attract people in who are interested in just swapping that specific item. So yeah, we did Halloween clothes and costumes and accessories, and you can see the kids there love the new pieces that they found. So we just took donations for a few weeks beforehand, and then on the day people could come and depending on we kind of just wanted to get rid of it because we had a lot of stuff, so we didn't necessarily do a token system. But I think going forward we would implement some tokens so that people aren't taking too many things home. But yeah, it was a great success, and I think yeah, doing things right up before special events like this can be a great way to get people involved in your swap shop. So that's pretty much it. Just the last slide there, I think. If there's no more, that's fine. So just my three big takeaways, I suppose, from my sustainable fashion journey would be: firstly, you kind of need to see beyond the advertising and the fast fashion that we're being shown all the time. And it's not until you kind of look beyond that and you look for the hidden little circular fashion spots that you can really kind of start onto your circular fashion journey, and start your own swap shops and all of that. The second thing is to learn to mend or to sew. So it's skills that we don't really have as much anymore. And even if you're just learning the very basics like darning a sock, it can be really fun, and it's a great way to keep your clothes in your wardrobe. And then the last one is just to get involved in any way you can. So you can look for other initiatives that already exist, or you can set up your own. Is a great way to kind of inspire other people to go circular as well. So yeah, thank you very much. If anyone has any questions.
Thank you so much, Rachel. There's so much ideas there, and especially just making it fun, and even having a swap shop amongst your friends as well. I think that map was it Terence McSweeney School in Cork.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the Cork area, but it's definitely a great action that any school could easily do and promote
absolutely.
sustainable fashion in your area. We'd love to see some other schools as well take action on this too. And yeah, we'll come back to this at the end. But I'd now like to hand over to Mary Fleming, the founder and CEO of Change Clothes, an innovative community-based clothing reuse hub in Dublin, working to prevent clothing waste at a local level before it becomes a global problem, creating like opportunity and change in the process. Mary also holds a certificate in circular economy from MTU, and her work with Change Clothes is through her work with Change Clothes. She's a Sustainable Development Goals Ambassador with the Department of Environment, Climate and Communications, and she sits on the department's Textiles Advisory Group as well. I have to say, I mentioned that Mary recently presented at this year's EPA's Circular Economy Conference, and I was so happy to see her there because textile waste had been ignored for years, and it was great to finally see it on the agenda, which gives me further hope that we're making progress. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Mary, as well. But over to you. We look forward to hearing all about Ireland's first permanent clothes swap.
Thanks, Claire. And yeah, you're right, it has been on the back burner, but I mean, we saw this article in the Irish Times last week about clothes banks overflowing and everything, and I think it's becoming much more of a Yeah, an interesting topic, I suppose, for everybody now. It's not kind of a niche thing anymore, which is really super. And Rachel, I love the map. I'd seen it before. Thanks for adding us. It's good to put a face to all of that because it's a really cool initiative. Hi, everyone. I'm Mary. I'm the founder of Change Clothes, and thanks, Claire, for the introduction. Sounded a lot more professional than I actually am. But yeah, Change Clothes started as a small series of events in 2022. Like October 2022, we got a bit of funding from our local cleanup group, Crumlin Community Cleanup. We ran 3 swap events, 3 workshops, and an exhibition of upcycled clothes over the space of a week. It was midterm week over Halloween. And I had no real intention, to be honest, of going beyond that week because I didn't think it'd be that popular. But then as soon as people started coming to the events, they're like, when's the next one? So we were stuck then and had to organise the next events. So we kind of became this travelling show in Crumlin where we ran these clothing reuse events every month. So swap shops, workshops, and talks, kind of like Rachel was saying, incorporating a couple of different events into one thing. So there was something for everybody. And we did that once a month for a year until we got our first permanent space. It was only a year later, actually, in Crumlin in 2023. But we're in the Liberties in Thomas Street now, and we're a non-profit social enterprise. I'm working full time in Change Clothes, which is still bananas to me. Up until last year, I was working a couple of jobs and doing Change Clothes on a voluntary basis. But I guess that just kind of shows, the demand for clothing reuse solutions really is there, and if you have a good idea and you really work at it, mad things can happen. So what problems are we having with clothing? I mean, we're probably quite familiar with some of the statistics, but scarily, like Ireland is generating about 250,000 tons of textile waste every year, and that was reported in the Irish Times last week as well. And kind of scary if you break it down to an individual waste case as well. Like 35 kilograms of clothing waste per person is nuts. Like, and only 10 to 15%, I'd say that's actually an overestimation, that 10 to 15% of textile waste in Ireland is reused or recycled. I'd say it's more like 5%, to be honest. And we know that there's no nationwide textile recycling system. So once clothes are binned or like put in our black bin, they're just not recovered. There's no stream for that. And Ireland is the second highest consumer of fashion or fast fashion in Europe. So we're the best or the worst consumer, whatever way you want to look at it, glass half full or half empty. But yeah, the stuff we're consuming is just cheap and it's not a great quality anymore. And of course, that causes environmental harm due to what those clothes are made of. We're seeing a lot of things that are made of multiple different types of textiles, these poly blends that just don't break down in nature, like say cotton or linen would. So that's another thing that's kind of been added to the big pile of waste. And 10% of global emissions now are from textile waste. And I think we've all seen those pictures of deserts, filling up with our textile waste. So the visuals are there, and I think everyone's kind of aware now of the growing problem. And yeah, charity shops are overloaded now at this stage. Like we can keep buying and keep offloading our stuff to charity shops, but it doesn't work long term. They're limited in their capacity as well. And we're exporting a lot of our clothing waste through recycling banks and things like that. But now there's a huge issue in that a lot of foreign markets aren't taking clothing waste, and we're seeing stuff build up now in Ireland. So what are we going to do with that stuff now that we can't export it at the same rate that we used to be able to? So that's kind of where swap shops and other kind of reuse initiatives come in. What if we can create value from this textile waste that is going to be sitting in our communities instead of exporting that problem abroad and creating issues for other people? So what Change Clothes is doing is that we want to tackle that waste at local level before it becomes a global problem and create opportunities for people and create positive change. The Change Clothes is a very positive project. We try to focus on what we can do rather than the multiple problems we've just discussed, but are important to share as well. So our big goal is to make clothing reuse community focused. We're very focus on having a great mix of people in here from everywhere. And we want to make it fun as well. We keep it as affordable as possible, and we want it to be social as well. Obviously you can swap and exchange things online and Depop and stuff, but we feel it's important to do it in community and learn from other people as well. I think people on this call would agree that at a swap shop you meet so many people and learn so much stuff as well, that there's so many benefits to that. And what we're doing is creating this environmental, social and economic benefit for everybody. And our social enterprise is truly circular in that we reuse everything that comes through our doors. So we kind of have three ways we deal with clothes. We have stuff in new to good condition, stuff that needs a bit of help, and stuff that's ready for landfill. So the swap shop sits in that new to good condition. We have a permanent swap shop here that's open every Friday to Sunday now at our hub in Thomas Street, and you just book in through our website. Unfortunately, you can't just walk in and swap with us at the moment, but a big goal for us this year is to have that shop front where people can just walk in and swap, and more people are learning about swapping, even if they're not swapping, just making it really obvious to people here in Dublin city centre that swapping is an option. You don't always have to buy. We provide swap kits as well to people in the Dublin City Council area. So if you're running a event in the area, you can borrow our swap kit for free. And that includes heavy duty clothing rails, hangers, kind of blackboards, mannequins, a little pop-up dressing room, anything you need really. And I suppose what we've learned you need over the years to get an event up and running. And a big part of our work as well is making sure that people who need clothes have access to them. We have so much surplus clothing, it's crazy that people don't have the clothes they need, especially if they're experiencing homelessness. So through our community closet projects, we are making sure that people in the Dublin 8 area have access to warm and appropriate clothing, especially during winter. And we link in with local housing services to ensure that happens. And we have great corporate sponsors that help us make that work happen. And yeah, the stuff that's really hard to deal with, I suppose, is stuff with holes and tears, like what happens with that stuff. We run free repair cafes with thanks to sponsorship as well. We do loads of workshops in-house and both externally as well. And we do everything from very basic repairs to machine sewing to creative upcycling to create new products. And something we've started this year, which is really exciting for us, is that we have trainees who are long-term unemployed working with us now to turn all this waste product, like we have a massive pile of it here, and we get donations all the time, to turn that into reusable product. So I'll grab one of the bags. Sorry, nearly had the place come down me there. But yeah, so we have these trainees that are learning how to sew and making these cool reversible totes and other kind of bits and bobs. And they'll be with us for the next year, turning that scrap material into things we can sell and make money to keep Change Clothes alive as well, of course. And the goal at the end of the year would, of course, then be to employ the people who are training full-time and create sustainable employment and deal with waste textiles. So that's our big focus for the moment. And kind of selling that product then online and at markets will be a big focus for the next couple of months, as well as our swap shops, of course. We're very focused on circular economy. As Claire said, I studied circular economy a bit in college, and I used to run a network of reuse and repair organisations. So I guess before starting that initial swap shop, I actually spent a lot of time with other people who are doing similar things. So it's really great to connect with other people who are doing similar stuff, and you can learn from each other what goes right, what goes wrong. Like my email inbox or phone is always open if you want to chat about how to run a swap shop or start any kind of reuse and repair initiative. We get a lot of calls and emails each week, and it's really important that we share our knowledge, basically. But the circular economy means that we're reusing and repairing everything. Nothing is going to landfill, and we're seeing the benefits of using everything locally. In terms of employing people and for the environment and all these great things that come from seeing waste as a resource rather than something that needs to end up in the bin. In Ireland, we're actually only using 2.7% of our stuff, which is very low and sad. But there's lots of great social enterprises and businesses, trying to change that. And we have lots of new policy in Ireland now that I think is exciting and will help us kind of have a more circular future. The EU average is 11.5%, so we are well off. But thankfully, the Waste Framework Directive now, sorry if this is super boring, but really important to know how your work is supporting EU and Irish policy. And actually, if you're looking kind of for community funding or anything like that to support your swap shops, it's great to quote this kind of stuff because it really backs up your applications, I think, when you're looking for a bit of financial support. But the EU Waste Framework Directive sets out these rules for all EU countries, and it's only kind of come into effect now in Ireland last month in January 2025. And it's to minimise the landfill coming from textiles in particular and focusing on reuse and things instead. So we're not supposed to be throwing things like clothes in the bin anymore. We have to find a reuse for them. So we have to have this separate collection system for textiles, and this means Ireland will have to improve how we collect, sort and reuse clothing rather than exporting it abroad. So we're going to be moving, now you'll see in the next couple of years to months, hopefully beyond clothing banks and landfill heavy waste streams. And hopefully now for people like us, that's going to lead to more investment in repair, upcycling, secondhand markets, because we kind of have to if we're going to meet the demands of this directive. And there's extended producer responsibility as well, which is another kind of EU level policy that hasn't quite landed in Ireland yet, but works are in progress to kind of make this happen. But in the EU is introducing extended producer responsibility for textiles. And that's great because it means that fashion brands will have to take responsibility for all that crazy waste that they're making. And that could mean fees for brands. They'll have to fund reuse, repair and recycling infrastructure, which could look like swap shops everywhere, repair centres and hubs locally and things like that. And although we don't have that system yet, we are working, especially as part of the textiles group with the government, to make this happen in Ireland. So an important thing to do with your swaps as well, of course, is to monitor kind of the impact of them. This is us for 2024. We had just under 8,000 swaps made here in our hub. And then we counted the number of items we upcycled as well. Sorry, there's 2 items upcycled at workshop. Oh, 3 of them. That's to say, items upcycled at workshops, items repaired, and items redistributed to people in need. So we saved over 10,000 items from landfill, and we estimated that's worth about 147 carbon tons. So that's kind of a simple metric there if you want to report on your swap shops that the average carbon footprint of a t-shirt is about 15 kilograms. So, I mean, not everything is a t-shirt. You'll probably get heavier things in, but you can use that 15 kilograms as an average per garment and multiply that then to see how much carbon you're saving as part of a swap event. So for us, like last year, that 147 carbon tons looks like 147 flights from Frankfurt to New York, over 19,000 meat-based meals. And I think if you put it in those terms, it really helps to kind of make it a bit more real for people. And there's lots of different kind of generators online that if you put in the kilograms you saved, it will give you a carbon report back that tells you what that looks like in real terms. So this is kind of what our future looks like, I really hope. It feels like we're getting closer to it year on year, but I'd really love to have this warehouse where all kinds of clothing reuse is happening in the community. So having a warehouse like this somewhere in Dublin 8 would be amazing. We obviously have our permanent swap shop, which is how most people know us, but also to have that affordable clothing repair centre. A big barrier to repair is that it's often more expensive to repair an item of clothing than buying new. So how do we deal with that? We want to have our large scale upcycling solutions for all the stuff that just can't be worn again. So that might be insulation for houses, mattresses, things like that. The industrial stuff that we just can't fit into our studio at the moment. A nice kind of redesign lab for thinking in a really innovative way about how to produce new items from pre-loved material, and you name it. If it's clothing reuse, I think we'll try and do it in this warehouse. So what can we do as individuals? Well, we're all here because we want to learn how to run swaps, and that's amazing. And again, I'm here for support. Mary at changeclothes.org if you have any questions. Rachel kind of said this as well: learn to repair basics, buy secondhand or sustainable brands, and challenge the fashion industry. It's okay to ask brands where their clothes come from and to think about that. So I'd love to see you here. If you're ever in Dublin, you can book a swap with us at changeclothes.org. You can book your swap kit if you're running an event in Dublin with us as well, or you can book a workshop at changeclothes.org as well. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you, Mary. That was amazing. Thanks so much for offering support as well to the schools if they have any questions or queries on their swaps. That's amazing. Does anyone have any questions so far? Just open up the floor and invite Rachel and Lillian as well if any questions. Um, just share, just in the meantime, we will be sharing a swap shop resource as well for organising a swap shop in your school, and we'll pop the link into that too. We'll also be sharing all the slides from today from our speakers as well, and the recording too. And so as part of then our final catwalk event, which will be taking place on April 10th, we'll be asking all you fashionistas to strut the swapped outfits and charity shop hauls along with upcycled and circular designs. I'll be circulating a form in the coming weeks to capture all the fantastic work that you've been doing throughout the year and to be able a chance to attend. And the deadline for this form will be March 14th. And I'll send all the details after this webinar. But we will have 5 different categories from formal, casual, swaps, upcycled, outfits, bags, accessories, and a special teacher category as well. So stick this in your diary and we will be in touch with further details. You can see a snapshot there of some of the incredible outfits that students put together last year, and our catwalk event too. And also I think we have some schools from Kenya that were joining us today. I think the Learning Hub maybe is still there. If you had anything to kind of share, or Danson, if you had anything you wanted to share on swaps and logo sharing as well.
I'm not so sure if the Learning Hub is still here, but
okay.
they were here, I think, at some point.
Okay.
So for me, I think this is really inspiring to see all the work that's being done here in Ireland when it comes to slowing down fast fashion. And that's not so different also with a number of the different initiatives that are happening in Kenya, quite similar. And the challenges, I think they might be unique and different, knowing that most of the time, like in Kenya, there's that like a way of where we get most of the waste from the global north and it ends up like in the global south. But also I think one of the ways that our schools and sometimes some of our students, especially in schools that are not so well off in Kenya, do to make sure that they reduce on their fashion waste is by trying to make sure that once, let's say, you're done with a particular class, maybe, or maybe if it's primary and you're going to secondary school, then you can be able to donate back that uniform to other students who are coming and they can be able to use it. So I don't know if it's happening here in Ireland or not, but in Kenya, it's one of the ways that schools try to make sure that at least there's a sustainable way in which like school uniforms are being like used. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something as well, like we've be interested in hearing as well about like uniform swaps. You know, it has come up in previous webinars as well. And kind of the variations of swaps that are taking place in schools. So having like themed swaps and costume swaps, but sportswear swaps and Deb's dress swaps, and as well how we can kind of expand on that too. if we've no other comments or questions coming in, we might wrap it up for today, and conscious that everyone's giving up their lunch break. And we look forward to hopefully seeing some of you in person very soon. And yeah, we'll send further details after this webinar. Thanks so much to our speakers, Mary, Lillian, and Rachel.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.